My Fianatine humiliated me at his family dinner by refusing to eat the dish that took me 3 days to prepare, then admitted he'd been lying about loving my culture for our entire relationship. I come from a small village in Thailand, but have lived in America for 8 years. When I met James 2 years ago, he seemed fascinated by my heritage. He asked endless questions about my customs, learned basic phrases, and raved about my cooking. His interest in my background was refreshing after dating men who treated my culture as an exotic novelty. Last month, James proposed. When his parents invited us for dinner to celebrate our engagement, I asked if I could bring something traditional from my family. His mother enthusiastically agreed. I decided to make Kainonjan Namgyal Parent, a northern that noodle dish that's been in my family for generations. My grandmother taught me how to make it before she passed, and it's our most treasured recipe. It's complex, requiring specific ingredients and 3 days of preparation to develop the rich broth and fermented elements properly. I spent hours hunting down authentic ingredients, calling my aunt in Chiang Mai for advice, and sleeping only 4 hours the night before to ensure everything was perfect. This wasn't just food, Parent represented my family's blessing of our marriage. When we arrived at his parents' home, they warmly welcomed me. James's mother cleared space on her carefully set table for my dish, which I'd brought in my grandmother's hand-painted ceramic bowl tart, the only thing I have left from her. As everyone served themselves, I noticed James took none. You forgot James's portion, his mother said kindly. He knows this recipe, I replied, smiling at him. It's his favorite? The table went quiet as James shifted uncomfortably. Actually, I've never had this before, he said, not meeting my eyes. I felt like I'd been slapped. But you've eaten this many times at my apartment. You always said you loved it. His sister sensed the tension. Well, I'm trying some. It smells amazing. James still wouldn't take any. I don't really like that food, he finally admitted. I never have. The silence was deafening. His father awkwardly changed the subject, while his mother squeezed my hand under the table. In the car afterward, I confronted him. You've been pretending to like my cooking for 2 years? It's not a big deal, he said defensively. Everyone lies about little things. This isn't little to me, I replied. My culture is part of who I am. Then came the words I'll never forget. I thought once we got married you'd start cooking normal food anyway. I asked him to pull over and called a rideshare home. For 3 days I didn't answer his calls or texts. On the 4th day he showed up with flowers and an apology. I was embarrassed, he explained. My family is so traditional and I was afraid they'd judge me for liking foreign things, but his mother called me the next day. We loved your dish, she said. James has always been picky, even as a child, but we're not like that. She'd asked for my recipe. His father had even found it at grocery store near their home. Yesterday I returned James's ring. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the realization that the man I loved had never really seen me parent just the parts of me he found convenient. I am taking my grandmother's bowl and her recipe back to my apartment. Some traditions aren't meant to be shared with those who can't appreciate their value.